Hello there. Welcome to Talking Balearics. Nearly forgot it again. My name's Martin Makepeace here in Ibiza.
And I'm Richie Pryor here in Mallorca. Happy New Year, Mark.
Happy New Year, Richie. How are you? Long time no speak to.
Yeah, it has been a long time, mate. You're just constantly away, mate. That's what it is, you know.
No,
Constantly
listen,
jet setting.
you're the one who's the globetrotter this time, Richie. How was Mexico?
Mexico was lovely, actually. Thank you very much. Yeah, really nice, really nice. I've got something to mention about Mexico actually in our little podcast today. Actually, funny enough.
Okay, fair enough, mate. Well, what else you got for me, mate? Mexico.
Well, we've got Mexico. I think we have to talk about this tax that the government or Mr. Sanchez is threatening to bring in, because I think that will be an interesting one to talk about. Obviously, as you are in the property game as well.
Yep. Well, it's actually what I'm only going to. Well, I'm going to talk about property in general, but it's the main thrust for me today, because I think certain things come around, you know, for us as wannabe journalists, and this is a massive story, especially for us being Brits in Spain.
I agree totally. I do agree. So, well, all right. So we'll start with that. We'll probably wrap it on far too long and end up with nothing else.
Well, I've also got a little bit of an update about where the best places to buy are in Mallorca and Ibiza as well, because I've just been reading some stuff. So we'll go on that as well. But first of all, Richie, what do you think Pedro Sanchez, the Spanish Prime Minister, where do you think he's going with this? Because just to fill in the blanks, he came out last week and said he could charge up to 100% tax on non-EU citizens buying property in Spain. And I think he's doubled down now as well, Richie. I've been reading reports today saying he said he might ban them altogether. Where do you think he's going with this, Rich?
Well, he's obviously trying to appease, first of all, the Spanish people, obviously, who have been kicking off about this ever since, well, for the last few years, actually, to be exact. But, you know, particularly last year, we had all the tourism protests. And, you know, one of the sort of big things is the lack of accommodation or affordable accommodation for both residents and workers, particularly in tourist areas where, you know, they're normally here for 6 months and then go away for 6 months. So I think he's trying to appease. Don't forget, Mr. Sanchez is working in a coalition. So, you know, he has to sort of bow down to some of these more radical political groups that, you know, use these sort of things as a tool against him. To be honest, but I'm not quite sure whether it's a good thing or a bad thing for Spain, to be perfectly honest. One of the things I would throw into the mix is it's not all Brits or
no, not at all.
Non-EU, because he's talking about non-EU people, isn't he? So, for instance, if we hadn't had Brexit, we wouldn't be as part of this.
Yeah.
You know, so if you live in France or Germany or whoever you're buying, you wouldn't have this problem. So I wonder, because obviously, I mean, the other thing it would affect, obviously, would be particularly the Spanish people. I mean, Spanish people buy out properties and rent them out.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So,
I blogged about it at the weekend because I noticed that the Daily Bulletin really went in on it as well, didn't they? The Mallorca Daily Bulletin really went in, because I think it scared a lot of people, and I had a lot of messages but the Daily Bulletin came up with some really great details. Actually, I thought of all the reporting, not often I say this, but I thought the Daily Bulletin were actually really good last week in Mallorca, and they reported that of non-EU sales, it's only 2%. I mean, how is that going to change the dynamic anyway? Here in Ibiza, you can imagine what we're selling to non-EU people isn't small flats in the middle of town where the Spanish usually live. So I think it's a really misplaced proposal. Also, don't you think, Richie, as well, he's taken the Donald Trump way of just going, wow, he's just throwing things in, even though he knows it probably won't be successful because he hasn't got enough votes in the parliament.
It reminds me, if I could bring a football analogy into this, it reminds me of West Ham bidding for John Duran at Aston Villa, knowing for full well that they're not going to be able to buy him. Do you know what I mean? We'll appease the fans by saying, listen, we put in a 57 million bid for John Duran. Mate, but we're never going to sell him no matter what.
Well, it's like saying that Arsenal need a striker, but doing nothing about it, isn't it? You know, it's the same thing, isn't it? No, I just, you know, Rich, obviously I work in the property game, you know, as you know. We don't sell to a lot of Brits these days, mate. That's the thing. We sell the houses of Brits who want to go somewhere because they've had enough of the Balearics, but we don't actually sell a lot to Brits coming in. So it doesn't really bother me that much, although I would say it would bother the mainland, Costa del Sol, Costa Blanca, where you get a lot of Brits going over there. So the Balearics, okay, of course we are going to be affected, but it won't affect us maybe much as the mainland. And I don't get it, Rich. I think it's an ill-conceived idea. I understand that he has to look to be looking for solutions, but I think this one is really wide of the mark. I'm no fan of Sanchez. In fact, I'm probably a complete opposite. I don't like the guy at all. I don't like his politics. I don't like what he stands for. However, he does have a country to run, and I know he has people to keep happy. But this one, I think, is well wide of the mark.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And as we said a bit earlier on, to try and bring this in, I don't know whether he's going to have trouble bringing it in because obviously he does work in a coalition. I'm not sure, but it's trying to appease what problems he has at this particular moment in time. And as you say, I think it would be interesting if somebody actually ran the numbers to find out exactly what sort of income it would bring in.
Also, Rich, don't you think he should be more proactive? The rental laws in Spain are absolutely horrendous because you've got the chance of people staying in your house for 7 years. I mean, 7 years, by the way, which is just the most ridiculous thing. It went down to 3. It was 5. It went down to 3. And it's now gone back up to 7, it stops people listen, I won't rent my places all year round because, I rent them just for summers because I don't want anyone just to decide not to leave. Also, shouldn't they be bringing in proactive tax breaks for people who've got rental properties and making it easier for people to rent? And also the mortgages, what the mortgages are like in Spain. It's almost impossible to get a mortgage in Spain unless you've got 60 or 70,000 in your bank account, which is nigh on impossible for youngsters to do. So I just think he's barking up the wrong tree. Pedro, no.
Pedro, no. No, I would also say that, maybe put some more money into finding all these Airbnb properties that aren't paying any tax. Do you know what I mean? And are renting out, for ridiculous amounts of money on a weekly basis, because I'm sure there'll be more money available there than there will be on what you think is going to be a big number. I don't think it is.
So they are clamping down on it, but it could be clamped down a bit more because if you've got an apartment, you're renting it week to week in the Balearics, then really there should be no place to hide.
No, there's a lot of. I mean, I live in a complex, and our complex doesn't allow short-term rentals. It allows long-term rentals, but it doesn't allow short-term rentals at all. So I don't think a lot of places are going down that route.
Rich, tell me about Mexico, mate. Mexico, how was it?
Mexico was good. We were there for 10 days.
Yeah,
we actually went there in 2019, just before the pandemic, actually, and it just sort of came up. Should we go back? So we decided to go back. And interestingly enough, what I found interesting was that the property we stayed in was owned by the Matuti's group.
Yes, it was Palladium. It was the Palladium, mate, wasn't it? I saw that. Yeah, I know. I've got many friends. I've got many friends who stayed there, mate, and they all say it's amazing. It's got amazing restaurants. It's absolutely fantastic. It's massive, apparently, isn't it, mate? I believe it's massive.
Yeah, well, it's that big that you have to. They put on golf carts to take you around.
Yeah,
and they also have, because they've got like it's like a lake sort of that runs all the way through, or rivers that run all the way through. So they have boat taxis as well that take you to different places. My only thing with these places, this is not just them. This I've found in other places that I'm staying in, and I've sort of been lucky enough to stay in quite a few of these. The restaurants themselves aren't as good as people say they are. You know what I mean? So for instance, this place had about 11 different restaurants.
Yeah.
Now some were really good and some were okay. That's all I could say. Yeah. The buffet, always fantastic. Do you know what I mean? No problem at all. But if you could go for Japanese, you go for Mexican, Italian, Indian. I don't know. There was so many different ones. Some of them weren't what I would call amazing for the money that you were paying, and sometimes they don't get those restaurants right. But in reality, I couldn't fault the hotel. I thought the hotel was great. It actually had a Rafa Nadal tennis center actually as well, opened up about 5 years ago.
Did you get recommended it, Rich, or was it somewhere you just heard about?
I was recommended. No, I was recommended. Yeah. And I'd sort of spoken to a few people. Obviously, we both know people in the travel industry, so I did speak to a few people in the travel industry just to say. And we normally put through TUI. I just find TUI.
Yeah, TUI's very good. Yeah, very good. Yeah,
yeah, they have a very good selection of things.
Plus, you used to work for them, Rich, as well. So really, you have to be loyal.
I'm not a TUI man, mate. I'm not a TUI man.
Well, Thompson, it's Thompson, mate. It's the same thing, isn't it?
Into Sun.
Oh, you're into Sun, yeah, of course, yeah. The only thing I would say about those big complexes in the middle of nowhere is it's very tough to get out of them, isn't it? And I like eating. I like eating local food, speaking to local people when I go. So you go there and you end up just staying around just because you can't be bothered to do anything else. I was staying in a place in Tenerife, which is very similar, massive place, very, very similar to a complex in Mexico. And the same thing, the food's good. It's not amazing. The food's, I would even say very good, but it's not, super amazing. And it's just very hard to leave those places, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And as I say, we had a great time. I found the Mexicans really very
good people,
friendly, lovely
good people.
Good service, and no problems at all. And if someone said, "Would you go back?" Weirdly enough, I've got friends that are staying actually at the same hotel right now. I spoke to her today on Facebook, and I said, "Oh, we're that's where we were 2 weeks ago." She said, "Oh, it's lovely." So I know it's beautiful. It's really, really nice. So listen, thoroughly recommend it if you're going. One of the good hotels to go to. What do
you think about the tourism there, mate? The standard of tourism in Mexico compared to the standard of tourism in the Balearics. Was it comparable, better, worse? What were you thinking?
From a service point of view, I found the Mexicans to be friendlier. I'll be totally honest.
Yeah. It's not really hard. It's not really. That's not really hard in the Balearics, though, Rich. I mean, we're not known for our customer service, are we? Unfortunately,
no. But we should be. We're in a customer service industry. We should
be cheaper than we are as well. But we're not that either, are we? So
no. That's
coulda, woulda, shoulda.
That's true. But I one thing I did notice, and I think I blogged about this at the weekend, that you see hotels. Obviously, the Palladium Group. We saw Riu. We also saw. I think we saw Iberostar as well, and possibly Melia. It makes me wonder whether these hoteliers do tend to sort of, take their money here in the Balearics in the summertime and then push all their sort of good staff, do you know what I mean? Particularly their managers and everything over to these sort of resorts in the wintertime in the Caribbean, just to sort of, maintain a good level of service.
Well, I remember the time that I had it on good authority that the Makepeace group here in Ibiza was selling hotels here to fund their Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic. They went massive over there, and they're big in Mexico as well. So there was a time where they were closing or selling Ibiza and moving over there. But I think it's shifted a little bit now because the Makepeace group are very big in Ibiza again. They've got the Palladium group, they've got Ushuaia. So I think they've spread the load out well. I'm just so glad that you had a great time in an Ibiza hotel in Mexico, Rich. It makes me feel good.
Well, I've earned myself some points now, Mark, and I've been told obviously I could use these points in some Ibiza hotels as well.
Well, you won't need to stay there, Rich. You can always come and stay with me, can't you?
Oh, you're very kind, very kind.
After this kind of property debacle, Rich, I was just doing a bit of background, and I saw now that in the non-EU residents, guess where they are wanting to buy, Rich? Go on, in Mallorca, first and foremost. There you go.
Oh, guess where they wanted to buy in
Mallorca. Where's the three places in Mallorca that the non-EU residents want to buy? Go on.
I would say Poyensa.
I've got Andrax, one.
Okay. Well, Andrax was normally mainly Germans, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, well, I've got Santangi. Yeah.
Santani over the east. That's over the east coast.
And I've got another place called Cala Morada. Right.
Calamorada is also over the east coast.
Right. So these are just to be specific. These are places over 1.5 million. So and in Ibiza, it's Dolt Villa, which is in the old town of Ibiza, which is where you used to be able to pick up properties there for next to nothing, whether it was full of gypsies. Now they're absolute fortunes. You've got San Jose. And you've got Cala de Boo, which is where I've got a house, which is nice, isn't it? It's good to know that I'm still relevant.
Well, just one house. That's one of the houses.
Well, I've got a couple of houses there, actually, but I didn't want to say too
Don't want to mention it on the podcast. Oh, well, there you go. One thing I think we should mention, because I know you passed this to me over WhatsApp a few days ago, is that we're talking about, obviously, Mallorca and Ibiza, but apparently Menorca is the place to be this summer.
Yeah,
it's the new holiday island. I've been reliably informed by some of the newspapers.
Well, something, I've been saying this for a while. I mean, I've got friends over in Menorca. I do a few properties deals now and again with a mate of mine called Simon Cotton in Menorca who knows it. He sent me the link actually, and he put like a horrible face when he saw it, because I don't think they want to be the top of the tree. But if you're looking for value, in the Balearics. Ibiza and Mallorca are just ridiculously priced, aren't they, nowadays? We said it before. Unfortunately, unless you're low season's still cheap, but the peak season is ridiculously expensive. Formentera is even more expensive. Where you're going to go, where you can have a really good value for money, and an up and coming place is Menorca. And I'm all in, mate. I used to hate it when I was a kid because I thought it was the most boring place in the world, but it must be an age thing because I absolutely love it these days.
Travel Supermarket said analysed holiday searches between January the 1st and January the 10th were up 34%.
Yeah.
Outpacing both Mallorca and Ibiza. And what's driven this apparently is there is a daily route being launched by EasyJet from Gatwick into Menorca all year round, apparently, as well.
Really? Wow.
Yes, which is, I think, is one of the. I mean, obviously, we know it works in the summer, but never in the winter. So
now, as soon as we're a Balearics podcast, Rich, that is big news, isn't it?
Yeah, that's 16,000 extra seats into Menorca, which is it's quite a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I've always thought it, mate, that if you're looking for value, not just holidays to buy a property, and you still want everything that Balearics has got, beautiful islands, rustic views, food, all that, I think Menorca really does tick the boxes. I think it's great for the older market. I'm not sure that the adolescents and the early 20s, there's that much there for them. But if you like the finer things in life, Menorca's definitely for you.
My son had a football tournament there a few years ago, and we went. I was pleasantly surprised.
No, it's great, mate. Really good.
It was like going back to sort of Mallorca 20 years ago.
Absolutely,
and very green. Yeah. Found it very green.
The only thing I ever hear negative about Menorca, because it's flat, you know that, Rich, it's flat.
Flat with a mountain in the middle.
It's flat, so you get this wind, right, that goes through it all year round, yeah? And I never noticed, but I've got friends who are over there said that you just notice this wind. It just kind of whistles all year round. That's the only thing. But, Ibiza's very mountainous, Mallorca's very mountainous. Formentera is flat, apart from the north of it, and Mallorca is flat as a pancake, isn't it?
Yeah, can I just say, rather sort of blowing your trumpet, but I thoroughly enjoyed your podcast with Wayne Lineker, by the way.
Okay, wow. Big praise indeed.
On a sunbed in Mexico, and he's a good story. He's a good storyteller.
Do you know something? I've known Wayne for best part of 30 years. He's one of those people where the master of his own problems, don't get me wrong, because he plays on it, but he's actually a really good guy. He's a family man, and I thought he came across really well in that podcast, Rich.
Yeah, I agree, and it was interesting to hear the stories how sort of Lineker's first started, and how he sort of went through his other problems, and he's come out on the other side, and he's built. You can't deny he's built one of the biggest and best beach clubs in the world. To be perfectly honest, in O Beach in Ibiza, I think it's amazing what he's done.
Well, listen, now you've listened to that one. Hopefully you'll listen to a few more. And I think I'll get you on the podcast one of these days as well.
Oh, mate, very kind. Yeah, very kind.
Talking about the goal you scored in 1997.
Oh, mate, they're still talking about that. In Santa Eulalia, apparently.
Of course.
Still dancing in the streets.
Great to see you, matey.
And you, mate. Take
care. Do you think you'll be able to make next week, or are you going to be too busy?
No, I'm available as of now. I'm available every week for you, Mark. No problem at all.
You're gallivanting around the world where I'm just stuck in a base, just working hard. As you do. Yeah. Great to see you, mate.
And you, mate. Take care.
Speak to you soon, buddy.
See you next week.
Make me dance.